Hello, my name is Ana Cristina de la Torre de León from 6th semester Group A, and welcome to this video. Today we are going to explore two important types of modern sculpture: assemblage and minimalist sculpture. We will also learn how they are different, and how they both express powerful ideas with simple forms. Also, we will see the work of Henry Moore and the broader minimalist aesthetic. So, first, section 1. What is assemblage? Okay, let's begin with assemblage. Assemblage is a kind of sculpture that is created by combining different types of objects, usually ones that already exist, like pieces of wood, metal, fabric, or even trash. The word assemblage comes from the French verb assembler. I don't know how to pronounce it, but assembler, which means to put together. Assemblage became popular in the 20th century. Artists like Pablo Picasso and Marcel Duchamp found objects in the art. This style was important for movements like Dadaism, Cubism, and Surrealism. Assemblage lets artists tell stories or express ideas using familiar materials in new ways. Instead of carving from stone or carving in bronze, artists simply assemble pieces together. Now, section 2. Henry Moore and assemblage. Now you may be wondering, what does Henry Moore, a British sculptor, have to do with assemblage? Henry Moore is mostly known for his large abstract bronze sculptures inspired by the human body or natural forms. He often used organic shapes like bones or rocks as inspiration. Although Moore didn't call his work assemblage, some of his sculptures were constructed from several parts. For example, his 1951 piece called Recycling Figure Festival was made from several pieces of plaster joined together before being cast in bronze. Moore also experimented with found objects and often assembled small models from materials he collected, for example, driftwood or stones. These models helped him visualize large pieces, so even if he didn't officially belong to the assemblage movement, his creative process was very similar. Now, section 2.1. Henry Moore and his work. Henry Moore is one of the most influential British sculptors of the 20th century. He is known for his abstract and organic sculptures that often represent human figures. Many of his works are made in bronze or stone and are often placed in public spaces. Here are some of his most famous pieces. Recycling Figure Festival is one of the most famous examples of his work. There are many versions of this sculpture, but the most well-known is Recycling Figure Festival 1951, that was created for the Festival of Britain. These figures have usually smooth forms, hollow spaces, and curves that evoke natural landscapes or fragmented human bodies. The second one, family group. It represents a family, father, mother, and child in a stylized form. It was one of Moore's first major public commissions. The piece reflects more interest after the World War II. The third one is King and Queen. This is one of his most evident and famous figurative sculptures. It shows a royal couple sitting with a combination of majesty and vulnerability, and there are several versions of this piece. The next one is Large Two Forms. That is a monumental and abstract sculpture made up of two rounded shapes that seem to be in a conversation each together. One version stands in front of UNESCO in Paris, and another one is located in Toronto. The next one is Draped Seated Woman. Also known as Old Flow, this is a female figure wrapped in a heavy fabric. It shows more interest in the influence of Greek and Roman art. And later in the video we are going to focus on this sculpture, and we are going to talk about more of this sculpture. Another one is Helmet Head Series, a series of sculptures inspired by ancient helmets, exploring the ideas of protection and vulnerability. These works combine hard outer shells with softer interiors. Now section 2.2, the identification of the piece Draped Seated Woman. Now we are going to analyze this sculpture. Let's explore its identity, physical features, symbolism, and meaning. Identification of the piece. Name of the piece: Draped Seated Woman. Date: 1957 to 1958. Author identification: Henry Moore, a British modernist sculptor known for his abstract forms and public art. Current location: several casts exist. One famous cast is the London Borough of Tower Hamlets, and another is the Yorkshire Sculpture Park. Now the description of the physical qualities of the piece. This sculpture was made in bronze using the lost wax casting technique. The surface is a texture, and the patina gives it a dark and earthy tone. The figure is larger, sitting with an upright posture, and her body is covered with a trapped cloth, creating a strong contrast between the softness of the fabric and the solidity of the material. As aesthetic experience, I can say that the sculpture invites us to reflect on strength, dignity, and timeless beauty. The figure is monumental yet peaceful. The simplicity of the form and the careful balance between mass and void make it a powerful and elegant at the same time. To talk about the emotions that the figure evokes, I can say that the woman looks calm but also strong. Her posture shows endurance. She doesn't look passive. Her hair is slightly turned, suggesting awareness. The drapery adds a sense of grace and softness to her powerful body. Now, to talk about the meaning of the piece, I can say that the seated woman can be interpreted as a symbol of resilience, because as I read, Moore created many draped figures during the 1915, inspired by the ruins of the ancient Greece and Rome. The clothes represent civilization and culture, while the posture expresses human endurance. Here it's important to highlight that the woman is timeless. What does that mean? The woman is not connected to one culture or place. Now, talking in a very general way, Moore's art belongs to the modernism or modern sculpture, having an origin in the early 20th century in Europe, and his art migrated to worldwide, especially in UK and USA after the World War II. And as a general overview, I can say that the modern sculpture broke away from traditional realistic art. Artists began using abstraction, new materials, and forms that focus on emotions and space. And Henry Moore's art belongs to this period where sculpture became more experimental, symbolic, and especially public. The movements that he belongs are early modernism and post-war modern art. The main topics or themes that he talked about on his art were the human nature, landscape and nature in general, protection and vulnerability, and balance between the solid and the void. As I said a few minutes ago in the video, his most famous examples are the Recycling Figure series, not just the Recycling Figure Festival. There are many series of recycling figure, the Family Group, King and Queen, and the Drop-Seated Woman are the most famous sculptures of Henry Moore. The materials he used to use on his sculptures were bronze, stone, especially marble and limestone, and plaster and wood on his early works. The techniques that he used on his sculptures were also modeling, carving, and, as I said a few minutes ago in the video, the casting with the lost wax method. Now, section number 3. What is minimalist sculpture? Let's now move to minimalist sculpture. Minimalism started in 1960, mainly in United States. It's a style that focuses mainly on simplicity, geometric forms, and repetition. Minimalist artists wanted to remove emotions and symbolism from the art. They believed that the object itself was enough. And instead of telling a story, minimalist sculpture creates a visual experience. Artists like Donald Judd, Carl Andre, and Dan Flavin used materials like metal, wood, or even fluorescent lights. Their sculptures are often placed directly on the floor or the wall. They are going to be exposed without any base. So the viewer is invited to walk around the piece and experience it from every angle. Minimalism asks us to pay attention to form, space, and material. Now, section number 4. The minimalist aesthetic. Minimalism is more than just a type of sculpture. It is also a wider aesthetic that affects many areas of art and life. For example, architecture, music, fashion, and graphic design. The minimalism aesthetic is based on the idea that less is more. It prefers clean lines, neutral colors, open spaces, and simple shapes. Everything has a purpose. There's no decoration or extra detail unless it's necessary. In architecture, minimalist buildings use glass, concrete, and steel. In fashion, minimalist clothes are often monochrome and have no visible logos. This aesthetic creates a sense of calm, order, and elegance. It makes us focus on what really matters. Now, section number 5, comparing assemblage and minimalist sculpture. Now, let's compare these two types of styles. Assemblage is expressive, creative, and emotional. It brings different objects to tell a story or create a meaning. Minimalist sculpture is focused, on the other hand, in calm, logical, and present moment. It removes all extra details to highlight form and space. Even though they are different, both styles has changed the way we think about the sculpture. They show us that a sculpture doesn't have to be realistic or made from traditional materials. It can be built, assembled, or even left plain and still make us feel and think. And well, to sum up everything, both assemblage and minimalist sculpture have had a huge impact on modern and contemporary art. So, assemblage teaches us that anything can become art if we look at it differently. And minimalism reminds us that simplicity can be powerful. Whether you like the motion of assemblage or the piece of minimalism, both invite us to see the world and the art in new ways. Finally, and as a conclusion, I can say that I prefer the minimalism. I prefer that peace that minimalism gives me, because I'm a very orderly person, and the idea that less is more pleases me more. And well, I hope that you understand the differences between assemblage and minimalism, and let me know in the comments what kind of art you prefer. So thank you for watching.